Hello drummers, welcome to this free video song lesson. Today I'm going to show you how to play the song Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish, drummed by Andrew Marshall. Here's what's coming up. So as usual, I've got the full PDF drum chart for you to download from my website for free. You'll find a link beneath this video. Every single beat, every single bar, every single drum fill, fully transcribed for you, all 3 pages of the song. And you might want to have this printed out in front of you or saved to a PDF document on a separate screen as we go through this lesson together. Hopefully it'll make things a lot easier for you to understand. And I've written at the top of the chart here, note percussion can be heard overdubbed in the background throughout. So that's really obvious towards the end of the song, literally the end of the song, where you can hear that percussion being played. And I'm 95% sure that these drums were programmed. They weren't played by a live drummer. I might be wrong on that. What gives it away really for me is the incredibly accurate accent pattern on the hi-hat, pattern that's being played. And I haven't included those accent notes in this lesson because it makes this lesson way more difficult than it needs to be. It's quite a nice simple pop song really, and adding in those accents makes it very, very tricky indeed. But we'll talk about what you can do in a second. Let's just take a look at the simplified version. And again, when I say simplified, I just mean there's no accents on the hi-hat. We've got a double-handed hi-hat groove, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a right, left, right, left, right, left, coming down to the snare drum for beats 2 and 4. And then underneath that, we've got this bass drum pattern. 1, 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 4. And 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 4. So the only tricky bit there really is the bass drum that falls on the of beat 1 just before the snare drum back beat on beat 2. Now very, very briefly, let's talk about the accents that you could try and play if you wanted to, sort of taking this to another level of difficulty. The accents fall on beat 1, the of beat 1, and then you really hear them when they stand out on their own, just the hi-hat being played on its own, on beat 3 and the E of beat 4 just after that snare drum back beat. So they're the two I'm going to try and replicate. And we sort of get this. Let's try and play it slowly and hopefully it'll sound like the recording. So you can see it's not impossible to play it, but I'm really having to concentrate there it's not impossible. You could have a go at it. Fair play if you want to try and replicate those accent patterns throughout the song, especially when you've got some of the drum fills coming in. So our basic groove continues for the intro. I've written just the 2 bars and then the vocals come in. Verse 1, we get just 4 bars of that groove. There's nothing going on. There's no crash cymbals even. It's quite a quiet song really. The very last bar of verse 1 though, line 4, bar 4, we get our first drum fill. And it occurs on beat 4 and we get 4 E and. So we come off the double-handed hi-hat, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 E and, right, left, open hi-hat, and it is going to play into a crash cymbal where the hi-hat closes on beat 1. So before I go on, let me play through some stuff up to speed. I won't go all the way to the end of the verse 1. Let me just play for you the intro and verse 1, the first line, up to speed without the microphone so we can hear just the drums, so you can hear that groove hopefully played smoothly. Here we go. So I'm going to move on to the chorus. I've called it the chorus. It's kind of tricky to determine which section should be called what, but I think I'm going to call this the chorus. And we continue with our groove just after that crash cymbal, that drum fill. We're continuing with the double-handed hi-hat stuff. It goes on to the next line, and bar 3, we get this. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 4E, so we're continuing with the 4E, but instead of playing and a 1, we're going to play and a 1. And you can play one crash cymbal. That might sound more like the recording. It's a very, very quiet set of crashes, maybe even splashes that occurred on the recording. And I played E accidentally there. And I accidentally played the bass drum on beat 1. You get that. And a 1 is the point here. And a 1, and like I said, you could play it on one crash cymbal. Excuse me. We then cant over beats 2 and beat 3. By the way, it's really hot in here. I'm struggling. After that crash cymbal on beat 1, we get 1, 2, 3, 4 E and A. Down 2 sets of toms. High tom and floor tom. 4 E and A. So we get 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and a 1, 2, 3, 4 E and a 1. Into our next section, which is back to the verse, and I'll play us up to speed for you in a moment. The verse is interesting because we start to get some open hi-hat patterns, and they are kind of random because there's another section of the song where they only occur in a few of the bars. You think it would continue all the way through. But basically from bar 2 onwards, we get this open hi-hat on the and a beat 1. 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and I'm continuing with the hi-hat being played on the of beat 1 while it's open. I'm just playing my left hand really quietly. The important thing to understand is we got 1 and a 2 and the open hi-hat opens on the and, the bass drum falls in between where the hi-hat is open and then closes with the snare drum on beat 2. If you're not used to that, that could be kind of tricky because you've got this open hi-hat up lasting for an 8th note, you've got a bass drum falling on the 16th note in between it, so it can be a little bit tricky, but stick with it, no pun intended, and hopefully it become a little bit easier for you. Of course, you could always leave out the open hi-hat if you're finding it too tricky. So that bar gets played for bars 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6 on the next line. Bar 7, as I said, there's no open hi-hat, kind of strange. And then we go into our next big drum fill, a whole bar of it. It's flams on the snare drum, 1 and 2 and 3, and then and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and, open hi-hat on the and to beat 3, and then 4 and, right, left, right, snare, snare, high tom. Could be the floor tom, I think it's the high tom. We're then going to go into, or back into our double-handed hi-hat groove afterwards. And the other thing to mention is that bar 7 going into bar 8, something you probably wouldn't normally do, but I think it's possible to do at this tempo, is coming off 4E and A straight into the flam. You might want to leave a gap, end the hi-hat on 4E and. Then you've got time to come, both hands to come down to play the flam. But at this tempo, it's not impossible to come off the hi-hat quickly and come down to the snare drum on the flam on beat 1. So you could leave out the 16th note on the 4, or you could do what I just did there and just come straight down to the snare drum for the flam. Okay, before we go on, let me play the second line of chorus 1 and the whole of verse 2, because there's lots of stuff going on in just that small section. Here we go. So at the top of the page, chorus 2 on page 2, we've got open hi-hat occurring on that and a beat 1 for bars 3 and 4 and bar 1 of the next line, but then none of the other bars have the open hi-hat that I could hear. Verse 3, we get a drum fill at the end of the second line. It's the 40 and drum fill. So remember we had the 40 and, it's exactly the same, it's just instead of, so notice how there's no crash cymbal going into line 3. Interesting choice. Then we get bar 4 of line 4, 1, 2 and 3 and 40 and. And the hi-hat seems to end on the and a beat 4. So 1, 2 and 3 and 40 and 1, 2. Because then we're going to go into what I've called the break, where we get 8 bars of rest and the drummer comes back in bar 8 with this cool little drum fill. This is my favourite drum fill. We get 2 16th notes on beat 1, 1 E and a 2 and a 3 and. It's this interesting idea going across the bar in a cool pattern. 1 E, 2 and a 3 and. Da da, boom, da da, boom. And it ends with 4 E and a 1. Classic ride down the snare and toms. So we get 1 E and 2 and a 3 and 4 E and a 1. That second bass drum there opens with the hi-hats. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and 2 and a 3 and 4 E and a 1, 2 and 3 and 4. Love that drum fill. Lots of fun to play in time with the song. So then we go on to the second line. The chorus 3 starts with that crash after that drum fill. The second line we get an interesting drum fill, kind of hard to hear in the mix, but I think this is what's going on. That 4th bar of the second line, 1, 2 and 3 and the and a beat 3 there with the bass drum is actually going to play on the high tom. Now because of my weird setup, I'll use the floor tom instead. You'll be playing like this, your right hand can get to the high tom, mine has to cross over. So I'll play the floor tom instead, but we've basically got that floor tom and bass drum on the and a beat 3 and then it's the 40 and drum fill again. So 1, 2 and 3 and 40 and 1, 2 and 3 and 40 and 1, 2 and 3 and. Create a 2-bar loop. I accidentally played the hi-hat on the beat 3, and of course you can do that as well, but I've written on the chart that it's just dum and then bat shh. Up to you if you want to play that 16th note on the beat 3 on the hi-hat just after that tom note, because your left hand's over the the hi-hat anyway. So now let me play for you from that break, that break drum fill, and let's play then the first 2 lines of chorus 3. Here we go. So then for the last 2 lines of page 2, we got a crash cymbal after that drum fill, continues just with the basic groove, and then onto the outro, as I've called it. We end with just the bass drum on its own, and that's when you can really hear just the percussion being played. The hi-hat stopped playing, but if you wanted to, you could just play the 16th notes on the hi-hat. You could play. I'm playing the same bass drum pattern as before, just without the snare drum backbeat on beats 2 and 4. If you want to replicate that percussion, that's probably how I would do it. But on the recording, actually what's going on, it's just the bass drum, 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4. So you've got the 2 options. That's more like the recording because you've got the percussion being played, but if I was replicating it again, I'd probably play the hi-hat at the same time. And then that's it, that's the whole song. For 2 lines, 8 bars of that. So I hope you found this lesson enjoyable, useful. If you've got any questions, feel free to email me, rob@drumstheword.com. Don't forget you can download the free PDF from my website for free. Again, the link is beneath this video. And then while you're over at the website, you might want to consider signing up to become an online member. And what I currently offer for £97 is a full year's online access to every single full video song lesson I've ever recorded and transcribed. And that's coming up to 750 famous and popular songs where, just like this lesson, I teach you the song from start to finish. You get the fully transcribed PDF drum chart. And I'm sure I'll be adding more Billie Eilish songs in the future. She's very, very popular. This was a popular request on my Facebook and YouTube channel. So I'm sure if you're a Billie fan, there'll be more to look forward to in the future. As a thank you for signing up, I give you access to 3 ebooks for free, giving you access or teaching you hundreds of famous drum beats, fills, and even drum solos. I give you access to hundreds more little videos teaching you even more famous drum beats, fills, and drum solos. And then over the years of your subscription, you also gain instant online access to all the new material that I upload for my members. And I record new lessons every week unless I'm ill or on holiday. So lots of stuff to look forward to over the year of your subscription. But until our next drum lesson together, toodle pip and happy drumming to you.